Another phrase they're using now is life-saving gender-affirming care. They like to smash them all together like that.
Well, I don't think
It's
that
gaslighting.
I just don't think that there's evidence to suggest that's true.
So, if you didn't notice, Dr. Phil is going on his Based America tour. He's been hitting all sorts of different platforms, all sorts of different people's broadcasts, such as he pissed off the ladies on The View. He's been on Fox. He's been on, obviously, Joe Rogan. Someone, Adam Carolla. He's been on the, was it David Pakman? He's been on the Pakman show. He's just making all the rounds, and he is talking in a way that shows that he is now based. Now, full disclosure, I used to be a Dr. Phil fan. When his show first came along, I watched it religiously. I definitely needed the help. I did not have an idyllic childhood, and I still suffer from the mistreatment I received during that time in my life. But after a few years of watching his show, I stopped watching it. I gave up on it. I think he was just too feminist. In the end, he was too woke, was what it came down to. He was not, I just got the impression he wasn't really there to help the people. He was there to make a show. And so I watched it for like 3 years. So 2005, I think I basically tapered off to where I've only seen a few episodes in the last, that's been almost 20 years, or 18 years, something like that, 17 years. I, of course, try to watch the episodes where he has the trans trenders on, because that's just gold now. He had Rollo Tomasi on, and he totally disagreed with Rollo Tomasi, and Dr. Phil's 100% wrong. If you don't know who Rollo Tomasi is, he is a big proponent of the manosphere, big proponent of male empowerment, men's rights, etc. Here's a sample of what happened on that particular episode.
And the only thing I can say to them is you need to get in touch with your inner feminine, because guys don't want that girl. They want a girl that's 25, 26 years old. They're looking for that feminine.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, I know.
No, you don't. Coming up, what is...
Now you're telling me that Dr. Phil, ex-football player, Dr. Phil, high achiever with a psychology PhD, married twice, I think. Dr. Phil is not interested in young 20-something-year-old women. Okay. Yeah, okay. Uh-huh. We all know that women look their best, typically, most women look their best in their early 20s. And this is true with men too, that they physically look their best when they're 20. This is just a biological fact that on average, human beings will look their best when they're 20. In fact, when you're talking about men being attracted to women, if men could just wave a magic wand and pick a woman at any age to make their partner, it would be a teenage girl. That's just biology, because that's when they're most fertile. I'm not trying to say that men should be doing this. I'm just saying that the fertility rates drop off as you get older, and 18-year-olds are more fertile than 20-year-olds. 18-year-olds are more healthy, more likely to survive childbirth and give more children to a man than a 20-year-old is. Even that 2-year difference makes a difference. It's just biology, and I don't know what to tell you about that if you disagree, but the fact that Dr. Phil doesn't know or doesn't think that men want 20-something-year-old women, dude, I tell you right now, if some cute 22-year-old girl came up to me, gave me a little wink and a smile, my marriage would be in jeopardy. That's just the reality of it. Love my wife, don't want to lose her, don't want to leave her, but temptation is there, right? So let's get into this. This is going to be a clip from when he was on Joe Rogan, and before we get into it, though, I do want to thank everybody for stopping by and supporting my work. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Now let's dive in here, and we'll see what Dr. Phil has to say to Joe Rogan about some of the stuff that's happening in the world.
Like 10 years ago, this is not possible.
No, and it's accelerating and not decelerating yet. But I'm beginning to sense that there's a pushback.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think they've made a serious miscalculation. They pushed so hard and so long that they've started to wake up middle America to the point that they're saying, wait a minute, what? That's not okay. When they start rewriting history, when they start rewriting science, when they start trying to get the government to co-parent with you, with your child, people start saying, okay, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't mind when you were running around here talking crazy, but now you're starting to get into my business. Like my grandmother used to say, now you've gone from preaching to meddling now.
Well,
yeah. Rewriting science, rewriting history, that sort of stuff is just 1619 Project. That's when this country became a country, because that was when the first black slave arrived on the soil. No, that's just factually incorrect. We know when the United States was declared a country, etc. We have all this documentation on it. Original documentation. Most of that stuff, of course, has fallen apart, but we do still have some of those original documents. say that, oh yeah, you can just rewrite science and, you know, a man is a woman, a woman is a man, and there's 85,000 genders. No. And stop saying it's a genders. Gender refers to male or female. That's it. As much as you want the woke to rewrite the language to fit what you think it should mean, I even have people who agree with me on the transgender issue arguing with me over the semantics of gender. I'm like, just stop, okay? This gender has a specific meaning. It meant that for hundreds of years. And now it doesn't mean that anymore. Okay. Continuing on with the video.
Well, you know what's
That's not
happening in
okay.
Canada, right? I mean,
What?
Canada has some pretty insane cases that are going on right now about gender transition from really young kids. And there's all this pushback with parents, and there's all this because the parents are not being told that their children want to transition. So there's this guy that was talking about these issues of parents' rights in Canada. And he specifically said that parents don't have rights in Canada. That they have, I feel like he said they have obligations. Is that the term he used? That he said under Canadian law, parents don't have rights. Like, what the fuck are you saying? Let me make sure that's exactly what he said before I get sued. But when I saw it, I was like, this is such a crazy thing to say. And if that's the way their law is structured, fix that. Like, who are other people to tell you how to parent your child? And who are these people? Have they been vetted? Are they really
Well, you know, it's the woke. The woke know better than the woke don't have kids. The woke have your kids. This is how it works.
good at parenting? They're supposed to be teachers. They're
Well-
not supposed to be parents.
Here's my problem with that. I have committed myself to owning the debate lane in America. I'm willing to let all sides come and say what they want to say, but they got to be willing to answer hard questions. And I've had some of these folks, I've already shot about 30 shows on Dr. Phil Primetime. And we're going to have 4 hours of news and a whole lot of other programming. But it's all about, I mean, let's be commonsensical. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at science. Let's not look at what you want to be the truth. Let's look at what is the facts. Let's look at what is science. And we've got these people that, it's interesting, they choose words like gender-affirming care. You know, that's interesting that they call it that, but really what they're talking about is hormonal therapy or sex reassignment surgery on children.
Yeah, like I just said, they're redefining, they're trying to sculpt the language in such a way that supports their ideology. What other things do we see that do this? This is religion. This is a cult, or it is a secular religion. It's a cult.
And in fairness, the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Endocrine Society, or whatever the exact name of that is, all of the major medical associations have signed off on this, Joe. They've signed off on it. And I have never seen those organizations sign off on anything with less information as to whether or not it does long-term harm of anything in my life. And when I ask about that, when I bring that up, then they immediately label you as transphobic.
Exactly. Again, cult behavior, not cult behavior in this case. This because technically a cult is a young religion. This is just ideological behavior, brainwashing, things of that nature. I'm not a transphobe because I go, yeah, I don't think trans are suffering from some sort of physiological problem. It's a mental problem. It's the way they think. That doesn't mean I want to hurt trans people. Doesn't mean I'm scared of trans people. It just means that I think that we need to figure this out before we start going around transitioning all these people medically.
And I thought that the deal was first do no harm. And all of the European countries, you know, Sweden, Norway, they've all stopped doing it because they say, we cannot say in good conscience that this does no harm, because it does harm. If you look at the long-term consequences, if someone changes their mind at 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, they can't decide which pajamas they want to wear at night. And
Right. As the adults in the room, we need to guide the children to what is reality, right? To what is the best way of behaving. Because we've been here longer, we know more. We also are more intelligent. Typically, right, on average, an adult is going to be more intelligent than on average a child. Because we've been here longer and our brains are more developed. That's just the fact of the way that biology works. But no, we gotta go, who would know better? They're the ones living in their body. You wouldn't know. You're not in their body. How do you know? Yeah, that's, again, ideological behavior.
their reason for doing it is it stops this drive for suicide, that there's a suicide epidemic. It doesn't fix that. It doesn't fix all the comorbid issues that come along with feeling like they're in the wrong body.
I wish you would pull up some actual hard data on that here. I say this all the time, so don't be sitting here thinking, oh, I'm just trying to be one-sided. No, I agree with what Dr. Phil is saying, but he didn't bring up any hard data to back up what he's saying. I wish he did have that hard data there. Does it prevent people from harming themselves or taking their lives? Probably. Some people probably are like, yeah, I was in such a bad place before I transitioned that I wanted to end it all, and now I don't want to. But are there people who transition and then want to end it? So it probably comes out as a wash in the end. I don't know. I don't have those statistics, that data there. Who knows if that's true or not? But it wouldn't surprise me if those numbers were pretty corollary. So,
but yet they're pushing this, and we're going to do some shows that are already taped that are revealing what the real results of this are. And I think people are going to be shocked that these medical organizations have signed off on this. I think they've just given in to the pressure.
No, they've given into the paycheck. There probably is a bit of, we want to be on the right side of history. There's probably some of that going on, but there's probably also a lot of, they're going, hey, this could really be a boon to a lot of doctors, because if you have a trans patient, that's a patient for life, right? You got, especially if you transition when they're a teenager, you are looking at having a paycheck roll in for 80 years. The way modern medicine is, who knows? I mean, it's a lot of years of money.
Yeah, I just don't understand where the pressure is coming from. Another phrase they're using now is life-saving gender-affirming care. They like to smash them all together like that.
Well, I don't think that. I just don't think that there's evidence to suggest that's true. Is this the guy you're talking about?
He said there's no such thing as parental rights in Canada. Children have rights in Canada, and those kinds of policies restrict the rights children have. This is a wild thing, man.
Yeah, so they're letting the lunatics take over the asylum, right? And not that children are lunatics, but let's face it, children are not as intelligent and not as emotionally mature as adults. So why is it that they're the ones who can dictate how they are treated by their parents? No, we have laws that say you have to treat them with human dignity. Beyond that, you parent them how you want to.
It's I've never seen anything like it.
But America's not far behind that, because I've talked to a lot of teachers, and they're telling me that they have a duty to the children, that if the child is not ready to talk to their parents about this, that it's okay for them to keep a secret from the child. Now, let me tell you what my problems with this are and see what you think. First off, if this is either a psychological phenomenon or a medical phenomenon, and the teachers are not trained in either psychology or medicine, they're not any more trained to deal with that than they are to take out the kid's spleen in the homeroom. So if that's true, if it's a psychological thing, if it's gender dysphoria, or it's a medical issue, then you need someone trained in child psychology, psychiatry, or medicine. And the teacher's not trained in any of those three things.
That's right. And so what they need to do then, if a child comes forward and says, I'm trans, and if I tell my parents, they're going to kick me out, they're going to beat me, they're going to do something like this, then you get Child Protective Services involved. It's very simple and straightforward. But no, everybody wants to think that they're the crusader. They're fighting for the right side of history, and you're just not. If you had proof that you were on the right side of history, then yeah, get involved. But you don't have any proof. There's no evidence that this is anything more than the way a person thinks.
Like I say, they're not any more trained in that than they are to take out the child's spleen. So how are they qualified to deal with that? Secondly, it's teaching the child to keep a secret from their parents. It's teaching deception and interfering between the child's relationship with their parent. Now, their issue with their justification for that is, well, if the child goes home and announces this, or if we tell it to the parent, then the child could get abused, the child could get judged, the child could get kicked to the curb.
He said that the child could get judged. Which, I mean, that's probably something that these people use as an argument for why they don't want, they want to be able to have the child come out to them and not their parents. I can tell you right now that everybody every day is judging you. Is that an exaggeration? Yes, of course. But people judge each other all the time. Get over it.
But they have to admit, statistically, that is very rare. And if that's the case, that's what we have Department of Child and Family Services for. That's what we have Child Protective Services for. If that's the case, then you call in for some intervention if the child is being abused at home for whatever reason. Then you get intervention in that way. But you don't come between the child and their parent. The parent has the right to know what's going on.
Joe's going to say without a doubt here. And that's the primary relationship that these children need to be involved in is with their parent. And again, like Dr. Phil said, if there is an inappropriate relationship there in some way, then we need to bring in outside people who can judge the situation, who can deal with the situation in a professional manner, instead of just saying, oh, well, hide it from your parents and then we'll just transition you on the side. When who knows your child better? I mean, maybe the teacher knows better than the parents. In some cases, it's probably true because there's parents who are never around, but it's up to the parent to determine whether or not their child needs to be transitioned. That's a medical decision that the parents need to be involved, the guardian needs to be involved in, right? Not the teacher.
No doubt. And also, these people that are teaching these kids, do we even know them? You don't know them. I mean, how much do you know about them before they start teaching your kids?
Well, that's
it could
the
be
thing.
insane. It's not like the threshold for teachers is so high that only the elite of the elite cross it. You see a lot of these weird people teaching classes, and you don't necessarily want them giving advice to children about decisions for the rest of their life. And here's an important point that people need to really take into consideration. There's a reason why they have little kids become suicide bombers. Because you can talk kids into almost anything. You talk them into believing in Santa Claus. You talk kids into believing in all kinds of ridiculous shit because they're really young. You could easily convince them in one way or another that they're anything, that they're queer, that they're trans. You could 100% convince some kids of all kinds of things, especially by reinforcing it with love and support and happiness. You can convince people of a lot of things. That's what's uncomfortable for a lot of people. For a lot of gay people, they're uncomfortable with the idea that a lot of these kids are just going to grow up to become gay. My friend Tim Dillon's talked about that a bunch. He says it's homophobic. It's like they're trying to say, no, you're a girl, when really maybe you're just gay. Like that's
Yeah, and this is what I was saying earlier. It's like it's up to you as an adult to guide the child into proper adulthood. We have this issue for just one example, and there's others that you could find, I'm sure, and there's dozens or hundreds or thousands that you can't find because they just haven't gone out onto the internet. But Chloe Cole was convinced by online people, bullies, ideologues, that she was a he, and started the process of medically transitioning until she realized this is not who I am. How effed up is that? And the parent should have stepped in immediately and said, no, you're not. We need to have the default, the baseline be, this does not exist. This is a psychological phenomenon. It is not a physiological phenomenon. And then the parents need to act accordingly. And if this child persists and persists and persists, well, wait till you're an adult. You can do that when you're an adult. Don't worry about it now. We love you. We're going to stand beside you. I know it's going to be troublesome. We'll get you into therapy so that you can get help with this. We'll do what we can, but we're not going to medically transition you because you're a child still.
it's okay. It was always a thing. And now all of a sudden it's getting, you're looking at little kids. It might just be gay kids. You're saying maybe you're a girl. Maybe you need to go to a gender reassigning surgery center and never have an erection or an orgasm for the rest of your life. Like, what the fuck are we doing? They're so young.
It's not, I don't think it's appropriate or safe for children. And I think there is a huge body of literature that addresses these issues from end to end. There's not a huge body of literature about the transgender population, and that's the problem. And what literature is out there suggests that you get, and this is what you see from the European countries. They've done study after study from these suppressive hormones compared to doing psychotherapy, and there's not much difference. If you do psychotherapy, you can ease the depression, you can ease the suicidal tendencies with psychotherapy without doing the irreversible things. They say, well, you can reverse those things. No, that's not true.
Well, there you go. Studies in Europe have shown that you can just kind of deal with this basically as well with psychotherapy. And I would contend that there's a lot of confusion in the world today, and we need to be on point with telling kids, like, this is your role as a man. This is your role as a woman. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with falling into those roles. Where I can tell you right now, I am way happier now than any other time in my adult life, understanding that I'm a man and this is my role. Instead of being confused by what mainstream culture tells me and says, oh, you need to be more sensitive, you need to be more feminine, you need to be in touch with your feminine, you need to, like, the women are so oppressed and they're so put upon, and how dare you as an evil man in the patriarchy, like, just exist, period, because you're an evil patriarchal man. And I say, F all that. No, it's okay to be a man. And all of a sudden, I'm way more content in my life. Wow, what a weird coincidence that despite what all of the idiot wokesters say, gender roles are real and important.
If you arrest the development, that can have ramifications long term, or at least they can't say it doesn't have ramifications long term.
There's also serious side effects from the hormone blockers.
Well, of course, and
Let me clarify that. There can be serious side effects from the hormone blockers. With any drug, of course, there are potential side effects. Potential side effects. Sometimes those side effects fade over time. Sometimes those side effects do not appear at all in a person.
If you're doing testosterone blockers, for example, that does have long-term consequences. And my point is, they can't say it doesn't. They don't have a body of literature that says it doesn't. And
what do you
I'm
think
not
is
a physician.
behind it, though? Like, how did this? If this is so contrary to the way most people feel, what do you think is behind it? Especially the push towards children, affirming children. Do you think it's because there's people that are queer or LGBT, whatever, and they want other people to be a part of their group? Is it they want more LGBT people? They want to encourage this behavior? They think it's suppressed, and maybe there's more people that are gay or whatever, and they want to come out and they just get suppressed by it, so they're trying to make it like more enthusiastic? Like, how is this trans thing becoming a major point of debate with children where it never has in history? In your life, in my life, there was never all this talk about trans children. Like this, it seems insane that we've forgotten the kids don't know what the fuck is going on yet.
I think a lot of it is owing to social media platforms and the internet.
All right. This is something that I've never really kind of agreed with because I just don't know. But I think that this has to be what's going on. And Dr. Phil is going to explain, yeah, it is social media platforms and the internet. And it makes sense because, look, this all started like 15 years ago. What happened then?
I think this is what I'm talking about when I say the activists, I don't think speak for the community at large. I think they get an agenda that they're pushing, and I think they really get wrapped up in this, and it gets a lot of oxygen on the internet. It gets a lot of oxygen on social media platform. Now, they say there's no social contagion here, but the girls that are claiming to be transgender, that percentage has gone up. Some reports say it's gone up 800%, 1,000% over the last several years. And they say, well, that's because they feel more comfortable talking about it now. Is that true, or is it because you read about it, you see it on social media, and you think, well, I can distinguish myself in this way? I think there is a social contagion effect. So people jump on the bandwagon, and if it's for a short period of time, but they've done things that can't be reversed, I think that's really tragic. And they say there are very few detransitioners. I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot more detransitioners that want to reverse this and come back than are being reported.
And there's a lot.
Yeah, I've seen that. I can't remember the name of the documentary. I think I have you've probably seen it. If you're watching my channel, you've probably seen there was a documentary that was put on YouTube about detransitioners. And one of them, this woman who used to be a man, was just like, it's at the point where I've lived my life so long as a woman, and the expense of changing back and the difficulty of changing back, I'm just going to stay a woman, even though I don't want to be a woman.
A lot of deep shame attached to that, obviously.
Of course.
It's also something that you don't want people to know about. It's so personal. It defines you for the rest of your life. Everyone's going to know that's the guy that used to be a girl and became a guy again. You know, and there's all the questions and all the bullshit that comes along with that.
I will say this. I don't think teachers want to get involved in this. I think some of them push it. I think teachers at large just want to teach. I don't think they want to get pulled into this.
Well, it's like
I don't have the numbers on how many teachers want to push this and how many teachers don't, and neither does Dr. Phil. He doesn't bring up any. But, I mean, I think he's wrong about that. I think most teachers want to be on the right side of history, and most teachers have swallowed the blue pills. They just take a bucket of blue pills every morning after they get it. First thing they do. Water, blue pill. Water, blue pill. Water, blue pill. That's what they do. And they want to transition these kids.
like bad cops, right? Like you hear about a bad teacher and you think all teachers are like that, but
They're
that's
not.
ridiculous. Most of them are just people who their profession, what they enjoy is teaching people.
All right, so I'm going to call it there. Thank you all for watching. I do appreciate everybody stopping by and supporting my work. Here's your palate cleanser. Enjoy.
Hey, Hector. Where it is? You want to take a chill?